We're going to pick up where that last video cut out with the sound with our next problem that's 15/4, and we're changing that to a decimal and changing that to a percent. There's a few different ways to do this. This is more than one whole, so we should know that as a decimal it's going to be more than one whole, and we should know as a percent it's going to be more than 100%. So the first thing I'll do is I can divide this out if you want to, and I think it's probably just easiest to change this straight to a mixed number. 4 goes into 15, that would make 3 wholes, which would be 12, and then there should be 3 left over, so it should be 3 3/4. Now, you should know what percentage 3 wholes would be. 1 whole is 100%, so 3 would be 300%, so it's at least 300%. Now we got to figure out the 3/4 part. The 3/4 part, you may know exactly what that is as a decimal or as a percentage, and if you do, that's good because it should be a pretty common one. But if not, we can divide this out and see what it's going to be. Doesn't go into 3, it goes into 30, that would be 7 times. And we'll bring down the 0, that goes into perfect 5 times, and it terminates. So it's set 0.75. So 0.75, we just take those first two numbers, it's going to be 75%. So a couple ways we could write this. As a percent, it's going to be 375%. As a decimal, we've got 3 wholes, and then we've got 0.75, so it should be 3.75. One other thing you can do is, if you have 15/4, if you can get the bottom number to be 100, the top number is what the percentage is. So to get 100, I just times by 25. 4 times 25 is 100. 15 times 25 is exactly 375. So if the bottom number is 100, the top number is what that percentage is. So it should be 375%. 8/7 is a decimal and is a percent. And again, there's multiple ways to probably do this one. 7 doesn't go into 100 very nicely, so that option's probably out. So I would suggest just dividing this. And this would be 7 goes into 8 once with 1 whole or 1 extra left, 1 whole and 1 left over. So it should be 1 1/7. So we know it's at least, at the very minimum, going to be 100%. Now we just got to figure out this guy right here. So I can divide this out. That would be a 1. Bring down our 0. Bring up my decimal point. 7 would go into that. That would be a 4. So we'd have 28, 2. Bring down that 0. That would go in that twice. That's 14, 6. Bring down another 0. It kind of looks like that this might just keep going. It might have a repeating pattern to it. It might just keep going anyways. So I'm just going to stop here and write it how we have it here. So we know it's 100%. Now this as a percentage. Remember, we just need the first two numbers. So that right there is 14%. Or if you want to be more accurate, we'd need to tack this on at the end, so it would be 14.2%. And then if we just put these together, 114.2%, we've got 114.2%. That's all you should need to do for that question. (145% now, and we're going to go maybe straight to a decimal, maybe to a fraction, then a decimal. A lot of ways to do this. First thing I'll do is, if I have a percentage, you can just write it over 100 as a fraction. So that would be the easiest thing. If you have a percentage and the bottom, and you can make the bottom 100, the top is the percentage. So it should be 145 over 100. So now we've got some options here. If I want to make it a decimal, probably the easiest thing to do, and you can just divide it how it is. I mean, I could just do 100 divided by 145 and go from there. I think it's easier to change this to a mixed number first and go from there. So that's what I'm going to do just to show you. 100 would go into 45. That would be once, and then we'd have 45 left over. And then it also, I mean, if we reduce this down, you're still going to get the same thing. So I would reduce it down just so the problem is going to be using smaller numbers. So if I end up dividing this by 5, that goes into both of them. Now I have 1 and 9/20. So now I know if I'm writing this as a decimal, it's going to be 1.1 something, whatever this is. So now I can divide this out and see what this would be. Doesn't go into 9, decimal point straight up. It goes into 94 times. That'd be 80, 10, bring down the 0, that's 100. That goes into 5, and that would exactly be 100, so that would terminate. So my answer to this as a decimal would just be 1.45. And this should make sense because 1 is the 100% part of this, and then 0.45 would be the 45% part of it, making 145%. Alright, I've got 4 on here that I'd like you to pause and see if you can take care of these on your own. So give them a try and then come back to the video and see how you did. Okay, we'll start with this one in the corner here. Decimal to percentage. And remember, on all these, there's a lot of different ways to get it. There's a lot of different approaches, a lot of different ways you can start. So I'll try to show everything, but if I don't start the same way as you, doesn't mean you're necessarily wrong. If you end up with what I have, I would just check with me and I'll make sure that you're on the right track. So changing this to a decimal, I could simply just divide this out and go 4 into 27 like that. That would work out just fine. 4 would go into 27, that'd be 6 times. 3, 0. 4 goes into 37 times, that'd be 28 to 0. 4 goes into that, so that would be my decimal right there. Also pretty easy to do would be 4 into 27 and change this to a mixed number. So that would be 6 with 3 left over. And this, if you divide it out to 3/4, you're going to get 0.75, so they're the same thing no matter which way you do it. Now percentage. Once we have our decimal of 6.75, now we just need to go through 6 wholes. 1 whole is 100%, so 6 wholes should be 600%. And then your 0.75, first 2 numbers, that's 75%. So grand total, that would be 675% for that question. Let's go this one next. Changing this to a fraction, very easy. You just need to put it over 100. That's it. 321 over 100. Now we can do other things to this, probably change it to a mixed number so we know how many wholes we're dealing with. 100 goes into 321 3 times with 21 left over. This would be a fraction. So our decimal is going to be 3 point something. So we just need to divide that out. And actually this one's easy because 21 hundredths is just what it sounds. 21 hundredths ends in the hundredths place. If that's something that you can't figure out or can't understand right now, you can always divide this out. Doesn't go in here, doesn't go in here, decimal point twice. That would be 200. That would be 10, bring down the 0. 100 goes into 100 once, so it is 0.21. So our final answer for a decimal would be 3 and 21 hundredths. Down here, 4.3. So that's just a regular number, and we're changing it to a percentage. So let's just break down what we have here. I've got 4 wholes, which is 400%. I've got 0.3, and remember for a percent we need 2 decimals. So it should be like this. So it's going to be 400%, that's 30%, so we have 430%. Now as a fraction, if we have a percentage, straight over 100. 430 over 100. 100 goes into 430 4 times with 30 left over. Divide by 10. That reduces down to 4 3/10. Last one, 600% as a decimal, which just means a regular old number. This one is pretty straightforward, I think. 100% is 1 whole. 200% would be 2, 300% would be 3. If you keep going, 600% is the same thing as just 6 wholes.